roomer. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am here with my morning coffee and a good case of bedhead. And I don't know, I find myself in a mood to do a much belated VR to Julie at Peekaboo Rose for the comical cards hashtag, which I wanted to do as soon as I first saw it at Julie's channel, and I just kind of blanked on what my choices would be. There were some that definitely overlapped with what Julie had shown, and so I didn't want to just repeat those. And then I think my mind was going more to the decks that are like supposed to be funny, and I was kind of like missing the mark on, you know, it's just kind of the cards, like they're not trying to be funny necessarily, but we just find them funny nonetheless. So what sort of resurrected this desire to do the VR in my mind was the fact that the other day I pulled a comical card from one of my decks, and it was actually one that I hadn't pulled from the deck yet. I was aware of it being in there, I had just forgotten it. And so pulling it out, I just thought, oh boy, okay, let's do this. I was ready to do the video even if it was only going to be centered on this one card, but I set my coffee down. I actually want to sip from it before I get going here. So, without further ado, shall we? So every month I do a divine feminine reading. And part of that is using the Divine Feminine Oracle. Duh. I know, really thinking outside of the box for that one. But I know this one from the get-go had met with a lot of criticism from people because of, well, here are the backs. But the models used for these pictures are very, I mean, very modern looking in some respects. They wear a lot of makeup. She looks the most natural of anyone, possibly because, I haven't done the research, but it's possible this could be the actual woman. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. But otherwise, yeah, people just didn't really care for like all the young kind of fashion magazine models showing up. I don't think that's the case for all of them though. But in large part, yeah, I can't deny that that is the case. I can see how it does sort of get in the way of really embracing these divine feminine figures and the essence that we're meant to draw from them. You're not expecting it to look like someone who's in a perfume ad or on the cover of Vogue. So anyways, there are a few in here that are kind of funny in that way. But the one that I drew that kicked off my inspiration for doing this video today is Pope Joan. Which, if we look at Pope Joan's story a bit here, I won't read the whole thing, but give me a second as I find her. Okay, so according to popular legend, there was a female pope who reigned for 3 years in the 9th century. She was a brilliant, highly educated woman who entered the Catholic Church in Rome by cross-dressing as a man so she could be with her lover. Intelligent and quick-witted, she rose through the ranks of the church hierarchy and was eventually elected as the Pope. So, I mean, there's just like a couple of things. Probably 9th century and being a Pope. Look at that eye makeup. Look at those brows. Look at those lips. I mean, well done, Pope Joan. Do you see what I mean? I mean, it's just, I doubt, if she existed, it might just be a legend, but I doubt if she was a real person, she looked like that. And so anyways, of all of the younger images to be found in this, and I guess everyone is very like glammed up. The makeup artists really outdid themselves. And I'm sorry, there is some renovation going on next door, as usual, carrying on from last year. So this sound I have to contend with every now and then. I'll wait till it's done. Okay, I'm seizing a break between the noise. But I mean, she has a very sweet face, you know, so they're not all too overdone, but I definitely take everyone's point, or those who have complained about that, like here, like Freya, like a lot of them just looking like these young fashion models and everything, and so it doesn't really like fit with what you might envision the essence of these figures to be. I mean, some of them are actual historical figures, and but maybe from a time where there wouldn't be photographic evidence to know exactly what they looked like. But even for goddesses, where you can't really like pinpoint specific features for that, you could let your imagination roam wild. Probably what you do imagine is not necessarily you know, this perfectly done eye makeup and lovely glistening sheen of the skin. But other than the Egyptians, I mean, we know that they had the whole eyeliner thing going on. But anyways, but yes, they are all very beautiful, maybe too beautiful. I don't know, but I really do like this Oracle deck. I'm really not in it for the images, honestly. I like it for the guidebook, the stories about all of these divine feminine figures, and the affirmation that corresponds with each one. It's a nice, like when I'm doing this reading where I'm just pulling one of these once a month, it's just to have this sense of a divine feminine energy to sit with. And so then that gives me like a mantra that I can keep reciting to myself. But this is another kind of funny one, because if you're imagining this woman, young woman, she was a teenager who overheard Paul, eventually St. Paul, disciple of Jesus, after Jesus' death, as he was traveling around and spreading the word, she overheard his teachings and followed him and just cut off her hair and was just devoting her life to following Christ, I guess you could say. But she ended up being sentenced to death in a Colosseum-style execution, where she was to be just basically torn apart by wild beasts. And this lioness enters the arena and just like licks her feet, I think, and she makes her way out safely. So anyways, you're hearing a story like that about this like badass teenager who is just defying so many odds and just cutting off her hair. It's just sort of like she's shedding ideas of conventional beauty and expectations for what her role is supposed to be as a female. Like, I think her destiny would have just been to be married off to whoever her parents arranged for her. And so she's like taking this huge risk, sacrificing her life to just kind of follow her own path. So however you might envision that young woman in your mind, it might not be this, or is it this? Do you think there's Ulta 2,000 years ago? I mean, even her hair, like, that's cute. That's not much of a sacrifice. So there are cards like that where it's just sort of like, okay. And so anyways, getting back to this one, Pope Joan definitely makes me snort. And maybe part of it too is the fact that, speaking of badass teen women, Buffy season 6 Tabula Rasa, when one of Willow's spells goes awry and everyone loses their memories and she doesn't have any form of identification on her to remember who she is and what her name is. So the name she chooses for herself is Joan. She's like, I feel like a Joan. So maybe that's what makes the name kind of funny to me. I mean, obviously there was Joan of Arc, so I do know this name goes back a ways, but I don't know why. It's just one that doesn't sound like it would. Like, I think of it more like, you know, Joan Collins. Like, I feel like the name Joan first came about in the 1980s, but whatever. I don't know. Just something about like the title and that name too, Pope Joan, is funny to me. And then this gesture that she's making, pardon me for being so sacrilegious here, but in a lot of religious iconography, you see this, and there is this really funny, I think it was an Easter card, or at least like an Easter meme that I saw, where it showed, it looked like a very like classic Byzantine style icon of Jesus, and you know, his hands like this, and I think there is connection between the fingers and thumb. And then there's like a book, and like an open book, and there's a shadow cast by his hand, and it basically forms a shadow puppet of the Easter Bunny. And I just love that. I love that. So if ever I see someone making this gesture in a religious context, like all I can see is that bunny shadow puppet. So anyways, makes me laugh in the spirit of this tag. So that was Pope Joan from the Divine Feminine Oracle. For the most part, I think my choices here is really just one card from a deck that makes me laugh versus like a deck in general. So, I mean, in this case, this is not a deck that I consider a laugh riot. I have pulled this one out of my purgatory bag because it's one that ultimately isn't resonating with me. But I think it's cool, and perhaps if I educated myself more on Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, I would have greater appreciation of it because there are those references in there. But we see these angels unlike any angels you traditionally see depicted, and it's really cool. I mean, it almost seems more like what they'd look like. I don't know, there's something just so liminal and surreal and kind of scary. Like, it's a very intimidating, kind of dark feeling deck, but it's cool. Like, I like that. So yeah, I mean, it's really incredible art. So for the most part, these figures just look so fierce, and just how they're kind of like broken apart and floating too, you know? You just see this whole, I don't know, it almost feels like when the nothing is coming in Never Ending Story, and how just everything goes dark and gray and things are just kind of eroding away and just being kind of like sucked into the void. And so it's heavy, it's awesome, as in like filling me with awe and reverence, which is just such a different take. So why am I pulling this out for comical cards? Well, because in the midst of all these just like really cool, really like spooky, dark figures, just to show some more, that really have a certain effect. Then Marvel enters into it, and you get an Avenger. Or like Fantastic Four. I don't know. Does this not look like a superhero? Shaligiel, Angel of Snow. I mean, it's like, again, you just have all these like very, I don't know, just like mystical feeling forms, and some of them not even fully formed, but just kind of like evaporating into the ether, and then you get this like very solid, and I mean, maybe that's appropriate for like snow and ice, like the fluidity of water being, you know, frozen and compacted into something solid. But still, I just see this hand being like pew pew pew, like she's shooting these freezing beams, and whoever gets hit just turns into an ice statue. That's the superpower. So I really can't get past this card. It's not why my deck is in purgatory. It's not at all. It's not at all. It's not at all. But when I used the deck still, I actually did consider plucking that one out because I just found it so distracting. But I thought, well, there's a whole structure that this is built on. And so to take something out would be removing that element from it. So I didn't really want to do that either. But anyway, so it's just kind of funny. So that was from the Angel Arium. On the whole, not a comical deck, but that card kind of slays me. So another deck that I don't consider on its own humorous, the Moonchild. I am giving you the alert right now. Before I even show you the card that I find to be comical, before you hear what I have to say about it, you might want to skip ahead, because honestly, if it's something that if I say it and then you see it and then you never saw that before, but now you can't unsee it and it like ruins it for you, I will feel terrible. Because this is such a great deck otherwise, and it's not, again, one that's just filled with card after card of, ooh, ha, 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 that's so silly. No, it's so beautiful, so I don't want to ruin anything, especially if it's a card that might have, like, tremendous meaning for you. Then I just recommend, like, skip ahead. Just try to, like, you know, look at the little thumbnails as you're speeding along to where I'm holding up a different deck. Skip ahead maybe. Well, I get so wordy, so I can't tell you how long. You'll probably be safe though if you skipped ahead like 30 seconds. But all right, I'll try to be brief then as I get to the actual card that I find comical in the Moonchild. The Five of Pentacles. Never can I ever look at this card. Never have I ever looked at this card even and seen anything other than a trail of gold that she has pooped out. And she's looking really ashamed about that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Every time I pull this, it's a poop trail. I can't not see it. So I really hope you skipped ahead if you didn't want to see that for yourself. It's a shame. It's such a serious, important, powerful card. But golden feces is what it means to me ultimately. Okay, so for this next one, there was a lot of hubbub when the Tarot of Curious Creatures came out. Not that other decks with this particular aspect had not existed before, but it seemed to really get the conversation going and really like show the great divide between those who have space for animal heads on human bodies and those who just really do not. It seemed like it really came to a head when that deck first came out. All the while, though, I was sitting here thinking, we're missing the bigger issue here. Have we not considered the prospect of human heads on animal bodies? And how much worse that would be if that filled an entire deck? Please tell me there's not a deck out there that does this, but this is from the Terra Volatile. And this card alone was a big part of what prevented me from getting this deck initially. When I saw this, I just thought, oh gosh, I was stalling my purchase of the deck just because I didn't need another deck immediately at the time. And so I could wait, but I was also like, I don't know if I want it, because honestly, what is this for? Oh, this is the Nine of Wands. I was like, I just think that's really going to bother me knowing that that's in there. Like, I'm never going to ever want to draw this card, and I can't take it out because I really want the message of the Nine of Wands. And so it wasn't until I saw an expansion pack came out that offered an alternative. That was my green light. So this is not in my deck. I went with the alternative. But anyways, like, what? And I never went online to see for the guidebook, virtual guidebook description that they have for it. I believe the physical guidebook is going to be coming out, but meanwhile, there should be something online probably already about this card, and I didn't even take it that far to find out why would you do this? Ugh. So anyways, yeah, maybe more creepy than comical. Oh no, I don't know. It's kind of comical too. He's just like, oh brother, how did I get myself into this predicament? Seriously? Like, he's looking up at God like, for real? Okay, so then, my next deck, that is not, on the whole, comical, but has one card that, to me, kind of is the Stunning Tarot 2nd edition. These backs. I edged it to look like the back. Isn't that fun? But yeah, this is small. The latest edition that came out of this looks super cool. I didn't get that one because I already had this, but cool deck. I think the changes in the next edition are really neat too, so I don't know if there would ever be another opportunity to have that, but I might try for it. I love the dimension, the longer, taller dimension of that, but anyways, so yeah, on the whole, this is not like a humorous deck. This is just, ooh, it's really cool, really beautiful, really powerful in a lot of ways. There's like such an energy to it, a starkness in certain ways too. You know, it speaks with a really like direct tone, and just like the mermaids and the swords, I think, is such an interesting choice. And then having the witches for the wands, and the Egyptian mythology for the pentacles, and the Tales of the Arabian Nights for the cups. It's really cool. So, but the card that I find comical here comes from the coins suit. Eh, bada, 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 eh, bada, bada, so wing, bada. That was supposed to be the crowd cheering for it. I already made that joke, full disclosure, when I did a walkthrough of this deck. Just repeat it now because hardly anyone's seen that, because I ended up not publicly listing it because I was kind of, the more I was going through the cards, the more my shame grew that I didn't know more about some of the legends and lore that they were based in. And so I just felt like I sounded really stupid through the whole thing. So it is in my walkthroughs playlist, but it was otherwise unlisted. But anyways, when I was doing the walkthrough and I saw this, I was like, he looks like a baseball player, and like he's just knocked one out of the park. He's running home, baby. And I ended up doing a reading for the collective at the end of that video, and then this is the first card that came up again, and so I was like, oh, I love it so much. But then it's just kind of funny to me that he looks like a baseball player. I'm like, surely that can't be it. But then I did my research, and yes, I'm forgetting what the name of it is now, but the Egyptians actually did have a sport that was like baseball, you know, involving a stick and a ball. And I don't know what the rules of it were. I imagine it was still quite different, but it probably was like a predecessor to it. And that is what's being depicted here. I can only imagine. I'm assuming. I don't have any sort. I haven't seen like a guidebook for this. Yeah. So I love it. I mean, it's just like, he just looks like, you know, he had just stepped up to the mound, swinging the bat around. You just see him kind of like turning and spitting and like kicking the dirt out of his cleats and everything. Like, it's just the whole wind up. So, yeah. My comical card from the Stunning Tarot. My baseball playing Egyptian. I love it. And this is where I'm definitely just kind of grasping. I'm sure that there are more comical cards in my collection. I just didn't go through more decks out of sheer laziness. I just kind of went with the ones that I could more readily think of. But I thought, hey, why not just go with good old Rider-Waite-Smith? Because I've been working with the traditional RWS for my deck and walk. Actually, a different version of it than this. This is the Centennial RWS. But I had pulled this card recently, and it is one that every time it comes up, like, I just love the card in general. I love it in any deck when it comes up, and I do think that this illustration is sweet, but I have a hang up about it. It just kind of makes me giggle. So the Six of Cups, because when I first was learning tarot and this deck, and pause for the sound next door. So the Six of Cups and the RWS, when I was first studying tarot and getting to know this deck, I honestly thought that this was a woman, like a grown woman, like a little old woman, in fact. Because, well, my first deck, here her hair looks more like yellow and like blonde, but I don't know if that coloration really came through in like the first version that I had of this. And so I thought she was like a little old peasant woman. And then I didn't really know like who this larger person was by her. But then when I learned that this is supposed to be two children, I was like, oh, okay, that makes maybe more sense, but does it? Because does that look like that doesn't, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, that doesn't look like a child to me. So I think because I first saw it as an old woman, I just see it as that. I can't like see this as like being a little girl. And then even if it was a little girl, I mean, I've seen children next to each other, even if this is an older child, like the proportions are just kind of off. Like, this doesn't look like a younger child next to an older child. Like, this is shrunken. Even if this is another kid, there's something shrunken about the proportions of it. And so it's just funny. So I just feel like it's, Honey, I Shrunk the Old Peasant Woman every time I see this. And I don't know, it's funny to me. So that one had come up for me, and I realized, oh, okay, that's a comical card for me. And then I was like looking through the rest of the deck to see if there are any others that strike me that way. And yes, the Wheel of Fortune, Anubis. It just looks like, hey, striking a pose, you know, that like that little knee propped there. It's just like Anubis living its best, most fabulous life. I also have a hang up with the butt cheek because it keeps making me wonder. I can't really get a clear sense of perspective here. Like, as a whole, is Anubis in front of the wheel? Or is Anubis beneath the wheel? In which case, straddling it with its butt cheeks? Like, is the other cheek on the other side of the wheel? And this is just like turning, going down its crack. I'm just saying. That is in front of it, but the body looks generally like it's beneath the wheel itself. So I don't know, every time I see that, I'm just kind of like, ooh, I mean, you look fabulous, Anubis, but also, ooh, chafe much? I mean, this one's too obvious. The buck, naked baby, barebacking that horse. Talk about chafing. Yeah, I think that's more chafing than comical. the Knight of Swords, the horse. Because I mean, I don't, to me it looks like it could just be nothing. I don't know. I mean, it could just be like the line just kind of thickening for no reason at all. But like, I kind of see this as like, is that the horse's like iris? It's kind of like, it's like side-eyeing the knight, like looking back like, this guy's gone batshit. Or maybe it's looking to us with an appeal. Help me. If I blink twice, I need saving. Anyway, the last one. I mean, I think we could probably all agree there's probably like a lot of comical elements throughout the original Rider-Waite-Smith. No offense to Pixie, but you know, the tower always makes me laugh. Like people just look kind of funny falling. But I think especially it's the, is it actually called Oops All Towers? I don't know if that was like a joke, and then there was another deck that came out that actually is all towers. So every card looks like this, but the characters falling from it are whoever appears from the other cards. And so I love the Wheel of Fortune card then, that is like, just because the people falling from the tower for whatever reason are funny to me anyway. When it's Anubis looking like this falling from the tower, do I find that funny? You betcha. So anyways, I think that's it for at least what I've curated today for the comical cards. Thank you, Julie, for a very fun tag. I'm sorry it took me so long to finally respond to it. It just kind of took me a bit to think of the ones that do just like make me giggle when they come up. And I didn't want to force the process too much by just like pulling out all my decks and searching. So it was just kind of fun when they were organically starting to come up, starting with Pope Joan, our pontiff of possibilities. And she did open my eyes to the possibilities for this tag. So it all fell into place from there. Anyways, all right. I will let you go on with your normal, more interesting lives now. So thank you, though, for joining me, and if you stuck me out here. And let me know if, well, I guess if you've done a response to the tag, I should look. I believe Julie has a playlist of everyone who did. And so if you haven't seen this tag yet, definitely go check that out. I will link it in the description here. And if you have cards of your own that you find comical, please do share that with me in the comments as well. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.